Welcome back to Ethical Exits, the podcast where we explore how business transitions, buying, selling, and merging of companies can actually become catalysts for good. And today we're flipping the script. For the first time ever in the history of the pod, we're talking to someone on the buy side, someone actively using acquisition as a tool for impact. Our guest is the one and only Peter Georgariou, founder and CEO of Karma Dharma, a B Corp certified strategy and creative agency based in Ottawa, Canada. Peter's story is part business playbook, part personal odyssey. He's a father, a proud girl dad, and a recovering perfectionist. And as you'll hear, a man who's rebuilt his life from the inside out. His company has evolved from a creative agency into a transformational partner for organizations that want to grow in both profit and purpose. And now he's taking that philosophy into the world of M&A, building what he calls a Deloitte for do-gooders. This one's got it all. Redemption arcs, radical honesty, and a masterclass in how to scale impact without selling your soul or taking anyone else's. So grab a cup of coffee, maybe a few tissues, and settle in. Here's Ethical Exits with Peter Georgariou of Karma Dharma. Welcome everyone to another episode of Ethical Exits. I'm Hannah, your co-host. I'm joined by Caitlin Corrigan, our other co-host. And this is a podcast where we discuss everything M&A for mission-driven companies. And today we have, for the first time, we have someone on the buy side, an active buyer, someone who's trying to leverage M&A as a force for good. Today on the podcast, we're honored to have Peter Georgariou. He is the founder and CEO of B Corp certified strategy, people, and creative agency up north in the land of Canada, in Ottawa, called Karma Dharma. And for Peter, what began as a creative agency has now evolved into a strategy and human transformation partner, servicing not only charities, but B Corps and purpose-driven companies committed to scaling their impact without losing their soul. And at the core of his mission is a simple belief: people should have the courage to be themselves. It's quite powerful, Peter. And he views business as a powerful force for good when built on purpose and profitability. Through Karma Dharma, he helps leaders grow financially resilient organizations while also launching projects such as Find Peace, a spiritual wellness platform, and creating spaces for individuals to reconnect with their inner wisdom. And I think, as you refer to it most recently, Peter, is finding their inner genius, which is also another really powerful manifesto. And Peter is a storyteller. His TEDx talk, The Anti-Roadmap, Why Your Path Teaches You How to Walk It, and explores the power of rejecting cookie-cutter formulas and trusting the lessons of one's journey. Whether in his role as CEO, father, husband, or simply as a fellow human, Peter's goal is to live a life of service and contribute to a more hopeful and compassionate world. Quite the intro there, Peter. Welcome.
I thought you were gonna cut a whole bunch of crap out of there. I sent you the whole thing, but you read it like a book. It's killing me.
Well, there was a lot of good stuff in there, man. So it was hard to pick some stuff out. I thought all of it was really relevant and such a nice way for our audience to get to know you before we ask a single question. So,
Well, the TEDx is coming up, so it hasn't happened yet. So don't go Googling just yet.
oh, dang, dude. Okay, well, shoot.
Coming up.
That sounds really amazing. So let's start there then, Peter. I find you to be such a unique human, and I'll say Peter and his company Karma Dharma is a client of Up and Over. I think I'm supposed to say that. So, conflict of interest, we can get that out of the way. But representing Peter and his company has been quite a journey because he is such a unique human, as you can tell from that introduction that I just provided. The way I describe you, Peter, is heart forward. I just described you this way to someone the other day. I'm like, Peter is he's a really open, loving human. And I think that Peter has, through his journey, come home to himself in a lot of different ways. And that you're really passionate about leveraging business, a creative and strategy agency, which is, odd on the surface, to help others do that themselves. So I don't know if you find that accurate. Hopefully you do. But B, we always like to start with values on ethical exits, and it's not just what they are. You can name them as your core brand, but why? What experiences in your life made you who you are? Right? What are those core memories? Yeah, go for it, bro. Because you're a parent, and I'm a parent, and I think about this in a lot of raising my son. How do I make him or help him be a good human? what are those core experiences growing up, or memories that I can, or experiences that I can help him have that will shape him into the human that he will be?
There's a lot in there. Uh, let's see it. Maybe I'll start by the end. I was at this conference and I just did a small video on this. Like 2 or 3 times, people came up to me and they're like, "You are such a girl dad." And I was like, "Yeah, twice." And so I have 2 daughters, 18 and 16, and they are wonderful young women. And I started thinking about that. So I chat GPT'd like, I think I have a gist of what girl dadding is, but and then so I lifted up, but it was like so beautiful. It was about being able to be vulnerable with them, to be able to show emotion. It was about being respectful and how women should be treated in this world. It was about being not trying to protect them from the world, but actually to help them survive and thrive in this world. And it was this whole indicator. I think my girl dadding, I probably was always a little bit like this, but I think this is actually like my way of life and how I want to show up. So, way beyond that, about being fully present for them and valuing what they have to say and what they have to contribute. But as a parent, you realize very quickly, or I should hope, that you are but a steward, right? You are not the owner thereof of said child. And once you realize that that is the greatest gift and the greatest job you will ever have on this planet is to be a nudge and a guide, hopefully in the right direction of your children. Or I take it with a lot of responsibility and this opportunity that as my own personal level of awareness grows and I start to see the beliefs that are tripping me up and that are holding me back, and that, holy crap, why am I still dealing with mom issues at 51 years of age? Crap, I don't want to pass that down to my kids. So, working through that shit in life is like, wow, I get to continue to iterate and try to reflect and be that for them. And so I also try and be that for the people I work with, whether that's our clients, and I guess hold space and reverence for the people who have confided their time in me. And to be there for them is a huge gift. Um, that's a long friggin' story, Hannah, about why I came to this. I don't know if this is the place for that. I'm happy to share that. Um, but yeah, I think that's the energy I'm looking to try and exchange with people. We talked before the call about the quality of good caliber conversations we're able to have, where depth and connection are happening, and this ability to perhaps have like this tiny micro nudge on someone's life that the trajectory over months and years could be dramatically different. About, hey, no need to live with regret. Everything in your life that's happened to you has been required part of your journey.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. Then maybe I'm not thinking about those things in the same way. And I think we just have this opportunity to be a light for the people in front of us, right?
Where did that come from, Peter? I mean, did that happen to
Oh,
you where
okay. Yeah.
someone?
So yeah, the short version of that is, oh Lord. I was born in the US, moved all around the US, and then parents get divorced and remarry, and they moved to Canada. So I end up in this new country with a bunch of people trying to learn to speak French. But both of those parents were what I'd argue functional alcoholics. So functional by day, and evenings all hell would break loose. So you walk on eggshells and you become a very astute reader of shifts in the energetic force in your home. And that started for me from an age of 9.5. And then that led to a whole 10-year addiction of my own. So it wasn't alcohol for me, it was drugs, but how virtuous and better I was than them because I wasn't drinking. And then, so that took me from like 18 to 28. And then at that point, I met Jody, and I had to walk away from both my family and my friends who were also in that loop of addiction. And I walked away for a shot at love and a shot at normalcy and an opportunity to rebuild, and end up in a shrink's chair. And this lovely old man, Dr. Zimmerman, looks at me and is like, "So, why are we here today?" I'm like, "Well, I'm 28 years old. I have no idea who I am, and I don't feel like dragging this into the rest of my life." And so I started
Wow.
rebuilding for a year of therapy. And that started this journey of trying to find why I'm here and what I'm meant to be doing. And that clarity has been 23 years in the making, now at 51. And now I'm finally having the courage and the integrity to step into the work I'm meant to be doing and stop walking in my shadow calling.
Wow, that's fantastic, Peter. That's so moving. You said something. I think none of us are immune from having some sort of experience with addiction, whether it's through other people in our families or our friends or personally. But you said something about growing up in your household. You were the way you described it made me think of this idea or this understanding that people who grow up in those kind of home environments are hyper aware. You are anticipating what people need before they even need it, or you're almost like seeing the future of like how things are going to go down in the next 5 minutes. And then there's a lot of leaning into people pleasing, right? Where you're just trying to keep the peace or keep the calm. So I think I can understand, despite the genesis from that behavior, how you're actually you're leaning into that even today with your company and your culture and how you treat people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Super fair. And then one of the emotional sledgehammer from said shrink was, perhaps the coping mechanisms that allowed you to survive that home may not serve you in building a loving marriage that you're looking to create. Fuck. Okay, good point. And so, like, to your point, reason I say that story is you're constantly developing this deeper level of awareness of yourself as a leader, right? They say the level of awareness of an organization can't outpace that of its leader. And I realized recently in Karma Dharma that it was my first time into entrepreneurship at 42 years of age. And I created this out of some sort of fear and desperation. I have no idea what I'm doing. I haven't done this before. Someone's done this better for me. I'm sure I'm fucking this up. And so I was always looking to these external validations. Somebody's got to have like a framework or a formula for this thing. It's got to be. So that fear and desperation to provide for my family and get this right, because you're out on a limb, you go from corporate job to this.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle choice, as you well know. And I've realized only in the last 6 months, but that fear and desperation had me making decisions that were actually pushing my team into that energy at a subconscious level into we'll do anything for anyone because we just need to survive. I'm like, man, I'm like, how can I still be here? Part one. Part two, oh no, I was required to learn this to be here today. And then C, I don't want to do that anymore. And then hence, like, you go.
Yeah.
You go.
Oh, no. So 6 months ago, that was a fairly recent transition, or were you that realization you've been doing? How long have you been running Karma Dharma?
8.5 years.
Wow. So you're still in this journey. I mean, that's the thing though, right? Like these are lifelong transitions, understandings. And I love the way that you phrased that I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it reminded me again of that reflection, the mirror of raising children, that you continue to evolve through them. Right?
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
And I think that I've never thought about that in connection to running a business and with your staff, but that also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we keep peeling the layers of ourselves so we can show up in a more human and compassionate way. And perhaps at these moments, just like raising children, that you don't want them to raise them to be more like you want to hold space so they can become them, right? And whether that's your partners, your staff, whoever that might be, that's a big letting go of the ego that your way is not the way. We are here to help them find their way in this life, right?
Holy shit. Okay, well I think that's a really the word ego is actually a really good transition point for the second thing that we wanted to talk to you about. Caitlin, do you want to run that one?
Yeah, and just to this, I didn't say much there, but what I just find from what you're saying, Peter, is just like your authenticity and how vulnerable you are. I think that definitely connects with the people around you and the people that you uplift, right? Because I think that there's leaders who are so quick to talk about tactics and all those business acumens, right? Whereas it's like, let's talk about values. Let me connect with you on a personal level. Like, I'm not better than you. I just want you to do better, because stakeholders want authenticity, not lip service. But segueing into this next question. So, you've described acquisitions, right, as more than just a growth tactic. In your day-to-day life, what you do at your consulting creative agencies, you try to help businesses, tell their story better in a way that's value and mission aligned and what's, most important to them. Now you're looking at M&A, and it's actually something that you can use for good, and you can actually use to help scale impact positively. So can you walk us through like how you came to see M&A as a force for good, and as a tool you wanted to actively use to create what I've heard you call Deloitte for do-gooders?
Yeah, I think I'll start with what shied me away from M&A, which I don't even think I told you this yet, was, or maybe I did, Hannah, I can't remember. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I met this guy talking about growth through M&A a few years back. He's more in the tech sector. It's like, yeah, M&A, yeah, you're going to probably pay too much, and you're going to inherit a bunch of people that you probably don't want to work with, and you're going to lose the clients when the founder leaves. It's like, fuck, this sounds like a great strategy. Like, I'm in. And so I shied away from it for a while. And then I started thinking about, how do I leverage the best of capitalism for good? Because I find sometimes in the B Corp community or the purpose-driven community, we have half of our client base are charities. And we always go through that old adage, no margin, no mission. You still need to start think about it like a business. And I find sometimes in the do-gooder world, like actually capitalism is like a bad word. And it's like this very strange thing where, business as a force for good, mega G on the good, but don't talk about the B. That's for the bad people. And you're like, okay. So I attended a couple of conferences like Mo Summit and Real Leaders. And I realized that the balance of the B and the G felt more in line for me. And as I've said to you, at least Hannah, I don't know shit about M&A, but it started meeting someone on a bus going to a sustainable fishing dinner at Champions Retreat, she looked over and we met each other. We're sitting in the second row, and she's like, I've had my business for a while, kind of looking to get out. And I'm like, damn, I'm looking to scale. Because I had just 6 months before that, I had gone through this imposter syndrome workshop where I'd made peace with my relationship with money and the fact that I'm a terrible business person. And I just need to get on this and go do something. And so I was open. And so that was my first foray into trying it. And they were also a B Corp. So their values aligned, and that made things easier. And they were complementary to our business. And then I thought about, why in the frig am I going to bootstrap this shit to the end of time?
Yeah.
I think that people think that, I don't know, maybe I'll speak for myself. Okay, well, that's the way it's got to go. If I'm going to be a real business person, that's the way I should do this. I had all these preconceived notions that I had to do it on my own. I had to stand on my own 2 feet, false. So I think I had a lot of still do, and working through that self-worth wrapped up into the how. And then as I let go of that and thought about, well, maybe if I started finding values aligned people, because a lot of the B Corps, at least, or the purpose driven folks, are also struggling. Client acquisition, the current climate, as we all know, is not easy. I'm like, what if we could create this sort of collective of agencies and have centralized backend and complementary skill sets and leverage the best of capitalism, minus, I was going to say all the bad parts, but minus the exploitative pieces of capitalism. And I feel like, even though I don't have that figured out, that is the energy I want to step into. And I want to learn more about finance. Like, let's be real, Hannah, you sent me over the form, the sign up form. I'm like, are you open to these types of deals? And there's like 17 friggin' types of deal. I haven't heard of 15 of them. I'm like, makes sense, but like, I am more the person who believes that I will accelerate and scale our impact faster by working with others, rather than, I would even say, the exploitative nature of M&A, because I talked to somebody legit who used to work at Deloitte, who essentially said M&A was a bad word. We're just going to buy you. We're going to take all your clients. We're going to fire all your people. We're going to bring it in. And so I think, especially, I'm in Canada, but in the US, M&A can have a very negative connotation
Sure.
about just, pure profit driven accelerating PE returns or whatever that might be. And I'm like, no, I don't think inherently it's bad. I think the motivations can be like anything in life, our intentions can dictate these things, but I think I can leverage this and not be an asshole, is my theory.
That's so amazing. And we need people like you, Peter. It makes me think of, God, Caitlin, I'm telling you, you're going to need a bell, dude. You got to get a bell for me. Every time I mention Simon Griffiths and who gives a crap, she should ring a cowbell, because I talk about them all the time. But they talk about this ambitious capitalism, and that capitalism, the new form of capitalism, should be a way to scale philanthropy, right? That selling a product, selling a service is just a means to an end, right? It's just way to generate revenue, capital, to solve real world problems. So who gives a crap? 50% of their profits they give away, and specifically to build toilets in third world countries. They don't give a shit about toilet paper, right? That's the whole joke, right?
Yes.
And they've given away millions of dollars, right, doing that. And there was just a conference over in Amsterdam that was about that. It's about being mission driven, sure, checking the box, getting your B Corp certification, but also being ambitious about it, right? And I think that we're in this political moment, in this economic moment, none of us in this existential threat moment from AI, things, forces like AI, none of us are immune from rapid disruption right now. As people talk about it, the fourth tuning, right? Like there's major changes that are happening. And there are being consolidated forces that are working very fast and hard and are very well organized against us, right? This end stage capitalism, race to the bottom capitalism. And I believe firmly that B Corps were supposed to be the antidote to that. And we weren't just supposed to be the decoration on the cake. We're supposed to be the new recipe, right? We are supposed to show how this can be done. And I don't think that we get there by staying small. So to your point, and in full transparency, you've hired us to reach out to mission-driven founders that are in the investment criteria. They offer the services or they're the size of their geographic region where you're interested in partnering. And I'm doing a lot of research in order to bring you these good opportunities and have these good conversations. And the vast majority of B Corps, and my understanding, Peter, through my research, are fewer than 5 employees and less than $1 million in revenue. That is not how we win. That is not how we fight back.
No. You can't. It's hard to win from the margins.
For too long, selling a company has meant profits for a few and pain for everyone else. It's time for a new model of buying and selling businesses, one built for all stakeholders, on values. Steward Market is that bridge. We're building the marketplace for ethical exits, where founders can sell with confidence, buyers can grow through values-aligned acquisitions, and the ecosystem of funders, CPAs, attorneys, and advisors can collaborate in one transparent hub. Connecting every player in the deal-making process around a shared goal, making purpose-driven transactions easier to find, fund, and close. If you believe business transitions can create shared prosperity, not just shareholder value, join us. Sign up for early access at stewardmarket.com and be part of building the next era of impact-driven M&A. Yes, and it's hard to win just growing based on revenue alone, right? So I think that's you're leaning into these things, you're doubling down, and I think that B Corps too, to your point, can be a little meek, and it really frustrates me. Like to the same thing you said, like, we're profit for purpose. We're not nonprofits as B Corps in this specific community, right? We are for-profit organizations by design, but for one reason or another, we have placed a artificial ceiling, and it's really tough for us to get over that, right? So I think what you're building is really interesting, and I think that it is a must-have experiment at the very least. We have to see if we can do this in an ethical way. We have to be able to at least try to provide a counterpoint to what consolidative, predatory, PE-backed, PE-funded roll-up strategies look like, right? And when I think about I think we've talked about a lot, and part of your goal too, as well, is to use employee ownership at some point to transition to an employee ownership model, to use your growth as not only just of course, filling your coffers, right? And building a great company for you, but also for every life that you touch through your business. And I think the world of employee ownership is also catching up to this, as they see acquisition as one of the fastest ways to scale employee ownership. The fastest way you create more employee owners is by buying companies and converting them to employee ownership. I also feel, and I'm on my soapbox now, sorry, Peter, this is the fastest way B Corps grow. This is the fastest way we become more relevant. This is the fastest way that we can accelerate our missions. So I don't know if you had any comments on that, but I wanted to ask you about how you actually make this work through the transition.
I'm trying to remember everything you said first. So that was good. I do think something that just came up, and I'll get to your question, I guess, is I don't think we need to prove it can be done ethically. It clearly can be. I don't think that's an if, that's a choice on the how for me. I think, and this, my friend Jeremy Staten, who's a wonderful guy. You know Jeremy from DeepNet?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yes,
he said, before I became a B Corp, he said, and he goes, you should go check it out. Just even if it's like your existential look at how you want to be showing up in the world. He says, I want to create I don't even think it's his term, but I don't know, but I want to create market-driven solutions to societal problems. And I think we can do that through this lens that there is a role for the charitable space, but it doesn't have to occupy all the space of doing good. And so as I think about this, like a broader lens on my Deloitte for do-gooders, Caitlin, is I think we can prove there's two things. I want to do good in the world while I'm here. I want to be proud of the life I've lived and the choices I've made. And I want to put good out by doing work for my clients, but I also would like to be an exemplar of proving the model works, because as I said to someone at the conference, if I hear about Patagonia one more time, I'm going to bark. We can't keep looking to this one behemoth who did it right and who's like, couldn't we all be like them? And it's unrelatable for most small and medium-sized businesses.
Yes.
So how can we show that at an SMB size and that we can create scale over time, that it can be accomplished?
Mm-hmm.
To get to your question on how do we do this through the transition, I think there's
because let me level set, right, Peter, right? And everything you say, I totally echo. And I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're doing the work, because I think that people, while it doesn't necessarily need to be proven, people need to be shown how. And you can play a tremendous role in showing how, right? Building the model.
Sure.
Because today where we are, less than 5% of M&A is mission driven, right? Or mission aligned, just as flat, right? So it's not happening. People aren't buying companies based on values or based on mission. And 75% of M&A deals today fail. And as our friend John Abrams, who wrote the book From Founder to Future and founded at one point the highest scoring B Corp in the world, South Mountain Company, he told us, or he used this term, fat wallet, broken heart syndrome. That's what happened. That's what is happening to these founders, right? Where they have this feel good moment, maybe when they're selling, and then when they see what happens to their company, they're absolutely brokenhearted, right? They cashed out, but oh my God, are they disappointed with what happens to their company? And in our opinion, I mean, there's a lot of things that go wrong in between, but for they might not be aligned. That might be the first thing. They might not want the same things out of that transaction, even if they say nice things before they sign the contract. But the culture integration can be the toughest, right? And a lot of people, when they hear they were acquired, Peter, their first thought is, oh my God, how many more days will I have my job? Right? Or how will my new boss, this new owner, see me? And that can be a really scary time that can manifest into really poor behaviors, right? So then people start getting squirrely, and they might be starting to write down client list or start interviewing somewhere else because they think everything's going to go wrong. So even if the new owner doesn't have, those intentions, the connotation or the energy around M&A, as you said earlier, is so dark, right? That people are afraid of it. So how are you thinking about that as far, and I know you've already done a few acquisitions already, right? So how are you not only thinking about that, but how are you acting in a way where you're preserving or amplifying culture, right, with each transaction that you're pursuing?
I think our biggest fear, what helps us there is our biggest fear is, are we going to lose what we built through the growth? How do I scale the culture of compassion and driven care that we're trying to exude into a larger body of now geographically, disparate entities, from having a team in the Philly area and now someone in the Southeast. And so the fact that we think about it all the time is legit one thing. This sort of healthy paranoia around losing what we've built and are trying to put out energetically has us thinking about it all the time. I also think it's we were saying it off the call, the quality of these conversations that we're having, both with the founder owners, but then subsequently with the teams about, you've seen it with me, or you'll see it on this podcast. So what you see is what you get is pretty obvious. For some people, my wife tells me, you're going to scare people, you need to tone it down. And so those people are not my people, but so that can happen. But what I mean is, like, this is what we're trying to create. We have a bold ambition. I have no idea how the hell we're going to do it. But for the next 2 decades, I'm on this like a mofo. And so here, I need to learn a lot of stuff. I don't understand everything about finance, just like I didn't understand most of the deal structures you sent me. But I don't care, because there's really smart people who understand all these things. And it doesn't matter if I know them. There's people out there who know them and can help us structure these deals and these types of things. And the best thing I ever heard was, there is no M&A roadmap per se, because all deals can be different and the modalities are infinite and all of the above. But I think the number one thing we do is this radical transparency around our goals and our numbers. So for our first company that we bought, they had never seen quarterly results. Hey, we made some money. Oh my God, we totally effed that up. We lost money in the last quarter. Here's where the boat's leaking. Oh, okay, we turned it around. Great. And so I think the more you communicate, and my other theory, which is somewhat radical in management, is actually treating our team like adults. And I know that's crazy, because we want to have all these policies to make sure we keep them in line like kids in a sandbox, but we have an unlimited PTO that no one's abused yet. And maybe it might happen, but I'm not going to move into cynicism because of one bad outlier. And that Einstein quote that goes, the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life is whether you see the universe as friendly or hostile. I continue to lead with people are inherently good. I just read Humankind by Rutger Bregman, which the whole premise is that people are decent, and I continue to believe that. And I show up at my relationships trusting from minute one. If you screw me in a few weeks, that's on you. It says much more about who you are than who I am. And I don't want to show up like that. And so I think in this transition of transparency, I don't want to call it radical, but just, I do not have this figured out. I hope you can help me to figure it out. I will show up like crazy to try and make this happen. And I will give it everything I got, because this is my life's work. And if that's of interest to you to be a part of that, and I can support you, you doing your life's work, which is not my life's work, but you finding your way in this world, what lights you up, and the contribution that you want to make to be proud of in this life, I will help you till the cows come home. And if that's too much for you, that's okay. Right? And so I think that's for the most part about how we are back to the parenting issue. If I'm trying to help you figure out your lane, not my lane and not my view of the lane for you, but what you would like to get out of this life and how that can contribute to the whole. If that type of freedom and environment is good for you, great. I mean, some people know, can you just tell me how I get my gold star by checking this box, this box, this box? That's also okay. That doesn't work here. So I think we build the trust in that way, and it works for some and it doesn't work for others, Hannah.
No, I think sometimes the most beautiful solutions are those that are most simplistic. And I love that you talk about like just seeing humans as good, humanity as good, baseline. I think that even that is so huge as a starting point, right? Of like how you're coming into the room. And then I do agree with you. I think that transparency and moving away from control to empowerment at all levels, right, is something that I think that we can borrow as ethical acquirers, right? Being on the buy side as you are, approaching market and trying to bring on more companies, build a bigger entity to have more impact. I think we can borrow a ton of lessons from the employee ownership world, right? Where
Sure.
they approach organizational operations as democratic, right? That there's still hierarchies and there's still decision-making trees, right? But everyone feels like they're part of a whole, and that they matter. And I think that that can really be as small as it is, but as big as it is, but as simplistic as it is. That can be really powerful, and you absolutely embody that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I told Peter, I'm like, Peter, he doesn't really have any hard, fast ideas,
Ladies, it's time we talk about what happens when the women who keep everything running behind the scenes finally take ownership. You're ready for more control, more impact, but staying where you are won't get you where you want to go, and starting from scratch feels way too risky. So what if there's a third way? At Our Way, our women's acquisition entrepreneur ecosystem, we help women buy established, cash-flowing businesses instead of building from zero. When women take ownership, companies grow stronger and communities thrive. That's just smart economics. Learn more at ourway.com.
Well, all the people, Hannah, all the people you send to me and I talk to them, and I think they're all like, first of all, they're looking at me a little bit side eye. Okay, is this shit for real? And then secondly, I say to all of them, I actually don't care how we structure the deal. If 1 + 1 = 3, I'm into what works for you. I'm not married to ownership. I'm not married to the title. I'm married to this adding value for you, me, and our communities. And so right away, I like back to your 17 deal structures. I'm like, you pick the one you like that makes business sense for me and business sense for you, whether that's joint venture, whether that's an acquisition, whether that's a holding co, it doesn't matter, whether that's a share exchange. And once this was somebody told me this they were in the tech space and they worked with tech founders, and these tech founders would get married to the features that they were building. And they're so exciting. You got to see this, and then you're like, and I'm not married to the features. The ones who really succeed are ones who are married to the problem they're trying to solve. Who gives a shit about the features? And so I'm not married to the features. I'm married to, is this good for you? Good for me? Good for your team? Is there like more upward mobility? Is there a broader impact? Does this take pressure off you because we can support you from operations standpoint? It doesn't really matter. It's actually John Sensiba, super good friend, gives me great advice. Also B Corp. And he was talking about his contracts being a one size fits one. And I just thought that was brilliant because we're all like, no, you must fit into the form. And you go like here. And where you're like, but we're all different. And so why does any one deal have to fit the formula? Maybe could I churn out more and that'd be easier? But then someone would always feel like they'd be getting screwed. As long as we both perceive there is value, let's structure the deal in a way that makes sense for all above. And you feel seen, value, heard, and your contribution is going to be able to make a broader impact. Who fucking cares about the deal structure? And so
exactly.
I feel like the quality of back to conversation is, oh, that's disarming. So you don't want to just own me and dominate me and fire all my people and take my clients? No, I hear you, but that's not the initial plan, I promise. No, I'm kidding, but you know what I mean? It's like there's this disarming thing that has to happen because you have to break the subconscious dance when you enter into these combos, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to that point, Peter, I mean, when you're talking to some of these founders, right, you're talking about acquiring their business and doing it in a way that you said everybody profits out of, yourself, them, their employees. But is there anything that's like a red flag, maybe when it comes to like deal structuring, right? Because we can do any type of deal structuring, but if it's in the benefit of the founder, like a heavy earnout, right, where that puts like tons of pressures on your employees to like hit a certain goal that might, in turn mean cost cutting from the get-go, and that could really negatively affect them. So maybe turning away from like deal structure, is there stuff that like founders should look for when they're speaking to other founders, to like do a gut check to ensure that, okay, this person has their employees in their best interest versus just kind of feeding you what you want to hear?
I would say twofold. My first gauge on that, Caitlin, is, and I have this sticky, I was looking over it at the bottom of my screen. It says follow the energy trail. And so what that means is when I'm talking to them, did I leave that call more energized than I left it, or am I drained? I'm like, this is going to be painful. Energizing versus enervating, like a drain. So I'm reading auras because apparently that's a thing, but I'm definitely monitoring how I'm feeling about the caliber of that conversation, and is there an openness, is there a vulnerability, is it posturing, is it, is there showmanship, all of the crap I can't stand in my life. So follow the energy trail is my advice number one. If it feels wonky, dig deeper, but odds are, as my wife said to me, trust your intuition, why would it lie to you? A. And then B is a secondary layer, because first impression, they could be having a bad day and their kids are sick, who knows, so it could be off. But I think interviewing, and this is another thing John was telling me, is have the founder conversation, but if you're really going to do it, go interview their staff.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that second layer, so like, I'm going to tell you, isn't Karma Dharma wonderful? And we treat people the best and everybody loves to work here. And I'm like, but then you got to talk to the people. And like, Peter's an asshole.
Yeah.
Tell anybody? No, I'm kidding. But well, they might. No, I don't get. No, but I'm saying that you need to get to that layer beyond what I believe Karma Dharma is, and here's how it is, and someone gonna get you the real deal. So, I mean, it seems like obvious due diligence, but I would have that second round of I would trust your gut first on the interview level, and then figure out what motivates them. I talk a lot about, what do you feel your life's work is in this season of your life? Like, what are you really gunning for? And that answer tells me a lot about what they're trying to accomplish. Are they really in service of their community in the world? And like, so far, Hannah, we've been talking to such purpose aligned people that I haven't gotten away from that. But if your mission is I want to earn out at all costs so I can retire and play golf and wait to die, that's not my person. But I think so. There's that level. I'm sorry, I digress. And then
No, this is good.
go talk to their people after, because I think they'll give you the real deal on how that goes.
Dude, Peter, I hope to meet your wife one day because she sounds like a total badass. You made the
badass.
best decision.
Best
decision all those years ago. I mean, I love that. Trust your intuition. Why would it lie to you? Bang, bang. And I think that's how a lot of people get here, right? So I think that just based on the pool that you're fishing in, you're gonna find a lot of alignment. And that doesn't mean that they have to be registered B Corps. That doesn't,
No,
all sorts of people aren't.
Of course not.
But having these conversations that are more about EBITDA, service, location, trailing 12 months, revenue, and margins, right? Stepping outside of that, and asking these questions and paying attention to your intuition, I think is so valuable. I mean, that is such a different space. Caitlin and I came from out of corporate strategic M&A. This was not the conversations we were having.
Yes.
Right? So totally different outcomes. So on that, Peter, I want to ask you, because as we've been doing this work, it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for us to find leaders like you, right? I mean, there's not a lot of people that are open to M&A, just energetically, that they're open to it, or they're open to it from their heart. But B, if there is any opening, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to founders like you who I talk about the work that they do, and they physically recoil. They protect themselves and they say, well, I can't buy Hannah. I have to sell, right? It's a defensive posture, right? So I wonder what you would say to founders, because I think we need more people like you, because I think about the circular economy. B Corp just had a meeting this morning about more circularity. What's going to happen to B Corps when the founders retire? Well, I hope that we show up for them, right? Yeah, call you. Yeah, exactly. But I hope we show up for them. I hope that the community shows up for each other, right? So what would you say to founders who are curious but hesitant? What's that mind shift look like? Or what would you encourage them to do to even explore or open their mind and heart to this opportunity?
My first thing, I would ask themselves to sit down with a piece of paper and say, what are the beliefs that I hold that tell me that M&A is a bad way forward? And I would challenge the inherent beliefs that we hold around that as a growth strategy. I don't know, is that a cop out? Is that only for the capitalist devils? Is that, whatever that might be for you? Or, for me, a lot is, I think, and you said this about succession in the B Corp world, I think there's a general opportunity for an augmentation of the business acumen of the do-gooder community, including myself. Back to the 17 deals I still don't understand, is that I think we need to figure out what our options are, because thinking small is not serving us or the community. And as a lot of owner operators, like, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm like, how can all these rich dudes or ladies be the only ones with the toolkit to do this work?
Yeah.
And I just think it's a knowledge gap. It's maybe not even a courage gap. It can be a courage gap. You're like, because every year that we have grown, I'm like, I've never managed a company this size, right? And so, this is new to me. Oh, I'm not the guy for this. Someone's done this better. And I still have these moments for real. But I think there's a challenging your belief set that is probably what's holding you back, and doing some deep inquiry on that, figuring out if there's true and what other statements might be even more true than the ones you're holding about yourself, or capitalism as a whole, right? It might be beyond yourself, and it might be belief about the quote unquote system. And then secondly is go talk to some smart people, that can help you along the way. And that doesn't engage you. Like when you and I first talked, we didn't have to move forward. I didn't understand fully how it worked, even though we had been through a couple deals. Someone's going to call people on my behalf and she's going to try and be me. This is weird. What's going to happen here? And so I think I wonder how much of that is fear, lack of knowledge. It's only for the bad guys. It's going to be too expensive. How am I going to keep my culture? I'm going to go broke, And so I think about our philosophy, and this is not me, but Alone, who said this, is I don't want to be placing any bets that can sink the ship. So how can I place a series of small bets, of which, I don't know, Hannah, let's say we do 5 or 10 deals over the next 5-10 years. There's going to be some duds, right? But and I don't need this to be VC home runs I'm talking about. There will be ones that won't work out, but some will work out really great. And we will learn an F ton about ourselves through the journey. So when we signed with you, like, I have no idea if this works. Worst case, I will have sunk a few $1,000s into someone I really love, and I hope it works out. But my point was, we will grow as an organization just from the conversations that's already been true.
Yeah.
And so that investment about our ability to think broader than the known space in which we currently operate as a forcing function, like this 10x mindset, 10x is easier than 2x. If you think, who would I have to become to manage $100 million Deloitte for do-gooders? Well, the set of criteria are going to be quite different than me. How am I going to eke out 10% more of my current operations?
Big firm expertise, values-driven impact. At Impact GC, we've traded the traditional law firm playbook for one built on purpose and trust. As a certified B Corp, member of the 1% for the Planet, and certified carbon neutral law firm by We Are Neutral, we help mission-driven businesses grow, protect their purpose, and lead with confidence. We're here to make the complex simple and the work human. Let's build what matters. Visit impactgclaw.com to learn more.
And so I see this as a forcing function to your growth and opportunity to scale your impact like you would never be able to do on your own.
Dang, dude, that is so killer. I love everything you said there, Peter. That's awesome. And that mindset, again, is like, that is ambition, baby. That is ambition. And I think it's also a belief that, Peter, you're well held. You've done a great job of surrounding yourself with people that push you, but also people that love you. And when you come home and you've had good days and hard days, you're treated the same, with love and care. And I think that's what you're doing for the people around you as well. And that's the magic, baby. That is the magic.
Well, my COO, who I've been working with for 18 years in our past corporate life and now, and my wife are always surrounding yourself with the people who tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. At times it's friggin' annoying, but for the most part, it is a source of tremendous growth. People holding you accountable to your own values. Even my wife, who's like, what would, I'm putting out these videos trying to share my message and have the courage to put my own voice on there. And my wife would be like, what would Video Peter say to that? And I was like, are you holding yourself up to your own standard? And I tell her she's number one with one of my fingers. I won't tell you which. And then I'm like, I need to work on this. But it is this just opportunity for us to elevate our own standards to what we want to be putting out in the world. And so back to full circle to M&A, specifically, you examining why you think it's bad or not right for you might unpack a whole, domino effect of potentially beliefs that are holding you back from the impact you want to have. So anyways, I digress on that one.
Okay, love it. And Peter, I just have one more question before we dive into the next one. When you were first starting your acquisition journey and you were going through, weighing out the options of whether or not this would be a good move for you, how did you find that community of people that would not like call you on your bluff, but give it to you straight? Was a lot of trial and error? What was like the most difficult time for you at that point?
No, like the real answer is I put out to the universe after I when I put out to the universe that I wanted to scale and see who I would become to scale to 100 million. I couldn't give a shit about the 100 million, but it was this great forcing function, like I was saying. All of a sudden, like meeting Mia on the bus, like I said, and this domino effect. And then I ran into who you guys know well, Jim Black, the best friggin' lawyer out there, and kind. And he speaks English when you call him, which is like this whole other sphere of great. Not like talking to my accountants and I feel stupid when I get off the call, but he is great.
Yeah, he is.
But he would say, so my first deal that I did, I spoke to the owners and I had on 3 paragraphs, about a third of a page long, the deal structure that we had hammered out. And I sent this to Jim and he turned it into, between him and their lawyer, 40 pages. And I wanted to barf. And I'm like, dude, you are eviscerating the heart and soul of this deal. And with the loving kindness of a grandmother, he looked at me and he's like, Peter, I know you want this to go well and your intents are in all the right places. He didn't say it in these words, but this is exactly what he meant. You're being an idiot. And you're like, you're naive. I love you, but you're naive. And so we got it down to 28 pages, which he still said was light. And I'm like, Jim, I don't understand 80% of these paragraphs. And I trust you that they're the right paragraphs. The numbers make sense. But I think finding the right people like here, and I'm just like, I get you want to go and you want to go fast. But in this country, people sue each other a lot. And so you need to stop being ignorant and do it right. And so what he did was he slowed it down, Caitlin, for us. And as an entrepreneur, you're like, okay, can we bust a move? I think this false sense of urgency, which can also trip you up and create a sense of dis-ease. So, finding him, which then led me to y'all who have experience in this space. And then all of a sudden, because I've put out there, we want to do this, I end up having these conversations about, I didn't even tell you. So I'm speaking to this woman, speaking to Christina at the event last week. And she's like, one of my clients might be a good fit for you. Okay. And then, so as you have the courage to put out to the world, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'd like to give back while I'm here. Like, oh, I got a guy, they're like, I got somebody who can help you out. And so I think it's back to that girl dadding of having the vulnerability to put out, like, not really sure how this goes down, but I'd really, really, really like to give this the college try while I'm alive. And then all of the people who are out there in service to the same types of values are there to support you. And so maybe you should be more intentional, but I started this place, and I'm not recommending this. I started Karma Dharma without a business plan. I just called a bunch of people I know and said, hey, I'm in business. And sometimes there's this paralysis by analysis, which we've overheard, but, and sorry, I'm not against preparation. We do a lot more preparation now, for the record, speaking to all my clients. But back then, I was just saying, it's just like, you just got to go. And sometimes the universe will slow you down, and it is a beyond humbling in all the best ways experience.
Love that. Yeah, I think a lot of people need to hear that you don't have to have everything figured out before starting the conversation. Hannah and I have experienced this firsthand, starting Up and Over. It's like there's so many people, especially in this community, who are willing.
Yeah.
And if you come at it with the right intentions, right, that's all you can do. Because like you said earlier, people can innately read aura, they can read good energy.
For sure. And I tell my team, they think our clients pay us for all the answers, but they really pay us for the quality of the questions. And if we can have the courage to sit and hold space for the question we're trying to answer, hey, I'd like to scale a purpose-driven professional services firm that are going to help people and organizations have the courage to be themselves in this life and go design a life that's meaningful to them and kick some ass. We'll figure out how we're going to structure that. Like, we're going to put the foundation under that dream. And people inherently, back to my belief, want to help others. And so you put that out to the community, and they're like, oh, and the dot connecting starts, and it creates this, snowball effect of conversations, right?
He's left you speechless, Hannah?
What? That is not possible. That is not possible.
You're the first to do it, Peter. We've put a new Guinness Book World Record on this podcast.
That's a good haze, Caitlin. That's good. Perfect.
Well, Peter, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. But we always like to wrap up our conversations with this question. We like to, give you the platform to tell our listeners about a certain cause or a nonprofit, or organization that's incredibly close to your heart. So, where would you send them, and tell us a little bit about what that cause is that's important to you?
Yeah, such a good question. And we work with so many charities, so it's kind of hard to say that out loud because I love them all. I would say the one that currently inspires me and is very relevant to the situation in the US is Philadelphia Fight. It started as an AIDS support organization in the 80s, and they still help 2,000 AIDS patients a year now. But they've transitioned into providing primary health care for marginalized people in downtown Philly. And as a FQHC, a federally qualified healthcare provider, they are absolutely under the gun from cuts in Medicaid and the whole current administration, and which is ultimately going to leave our most vulnerable people at a loss for healthcare. And I don't follow all the news that much anymore, just due to my mental health, and following the news cycle is not good for me. But I did hear that some of these cuts are going to just further the healthcare deserts across rural USA, that some 700 hospitals could be closing. So I think perhaps as the insured and the privileged, where we have access to our healthcare, thinking about those, especially coming from Canada, where medicine is not a privilege, it's a right, and everyone has access to healthcare, thinking about those who aren't receiving it and who are most vulnerable and whose life expectancies are often a decade less than the national average. These people need our help. So whether it's Philadelphia Fight or your FQHC in your area, they need a hand.
You're the first one to raise that particular cause and that particular organization. So we're super meaningful. I definitely feel that. And, as an aside, rural healthcare centers are under a threat from private equity acquisitions. So it's another good space for people to be ambitious in terms of creating the communities that they want. And we can't have healthy communities if we don't have healthy people. 100%.
Amen.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Peter. Really enjoyed having you on. So grateful that you're in our community.
Thank you.
And yeah, this is a great episode. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your knowledge, your vulnerability, and your approach to life, bro. You're a unique guy for sure.
Thank you.
And you're so lucky.
That's fun.
Yeah.
You better tell them. I'm going to have you send them a note, let them know how great I am. It's going to be great. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, well, I appreciate you both, and thank you for the opportunity, not only to work together, but to be here today. And any way I can be of service to you in your journey, you know I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. This was a special episode.